Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Alright, everybody, we are back. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Evan Worley. Happy Tuesday to everybody. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. I am finally out in Dallas. Just have to wait a little bit, start looking for my apartment in North Dallas. Don't want to bore you guys with the details, but just to let you know, I am currently recording this from my backyard in the Texas summer. So, if you hear me freak out a little bit, it's probably because a bug flew by my screen or something like that. I am a Southern California kid through and through, so these bugs are terrifying. And not only that, they're way too big. I don't know what they feed these things down here in Texas, but good God, these things are gigantic. Anyways, so we have news on the Miami Marlins. So the Miami Marlins have been cleared to leave Philadelphia on Sunday and, resume their season Tuesday. So that would be today at Baltimore. That's some pretty good news. That's pretty positive news, but the weird thing about that is 21 positive cases, according to the information released by the MLB and the Players Association on Friday, and 18 of those 21 positive tests are players. So that's more than just a little alarming. That's actually really alarming. So on Saturday, the MLB revised Miami's schedule, as we all know, and they barred. They were slated to play the Orioles Tuesday night. Remember, I'm recording this on a Monday, so I'm reading this from the past. But yeah, reading it on Tuesday, so that's if it actually goes through. We all know how Manfred changes his mind willy-nilly. Like, that guy could say something at 6 o'clock in the morning and then completely change his mind and say the complete opposite at like 10:30. You never really know what's coming out of Manfred's mouth, so basically you just got to play it by ear every hour on the hour. So in the past week, so Miami has added 6 pitchers to their roster. They added Pat Venditti. I don't know. I'm going to butcher like majority of these names. Just bear with me. Richard Bleer, Mike Morin, Justin Schaefer, Josh D. Smith, and James Hoyt. The club also added Wilkin Castillo and infielder Logan Forsythe just to be able to field a team. That is more than just a little alarming. That is really alarming because if you're having to add that many players just to be able to field a team, how long until those guys test positive too? And on top of that, the positive COVID tests went back to Miami on a bus while everybody else flew. So at least they're taking a little extra precaution, but still, that's kind of weird. That's really weird, actually. So Tuesday and Wednesday, Miami will be the visiting team, but Thursday's doubleheader, they will be the home team versus the Baltimore Orioles in Miami. So that's kind of weird. I don't understand why that happens, where it's like the home team is actually the away team. I don't know. That'll forever look goofy to me. Right-hander Jordan Yamamoto is expected to join the rotation and they're strongly considering promoting prospect Huberto Mejia, and who is the 23rd prospect in the Miami's rotation to fill out the 30-man roster. It's probably just going to be better if the MLB just wouldn't break down the rosters. Like, if they just kept the rosters at a 30-man roster and just kept it like that for the regular season, I don't know why they would have to, like, make the rosters smaller. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. With all the positive cases and everything like that, you should probably want the more lean towards, the side of caution and have more players than less. Because that's just an immediate disadvantage. It doesn't make any sense to me. But nothing baseball's done has really made sense to me this offseason or in the regular season. So let's keep it moving forward. Second baseman Izan Diaz announced on Instagram on Saturday that he's opting out for the remainder of the Major League Baseball season. I don't know if that's a good move. I mean, I get that, it's all about safety, and, if you even play even a little bit of Major League Baseball, you still get a ton of benefits for the rest of your life. So, I mean, I guess that he's looking at from a health perspective, like, oh, even when baseball's done, I can still, I can still be as successful as possible with all the benefits that I get from it. But, at 24 years old, he is the youngest and least experienced player to opt out. And he wasn't really hitting that well, so I hope he has a decent contract, because if he doesn't, I don't know if he's going to get another chance, or he'll probably spend like maybe a year or 2 years in the minors, but he's going to have to fight his way back, because he's slashing 176, 257, and 303 in 51 games. Like, that's a pretty good sample size, and those are not. That's not good. That's not good at all. So hopefully, I don't know a ton about Izan Diaz. I hope that he has some decent batting skills or fielding skills, or at least can be like a Billy Hamilton type where he's just faster than everybody else. Because if he's relied on for his offense, then that guy's got some problems. So moving on, let's go. This is the quote that he put on his Instagram, and it starts off with, "This has been a tough week to see so many of my teammates come down with the virus and see how quickly it spreads. After much deliberation and thought, I have made a difficult choice of opting out of the remainder of the 2020 season, and this has been a decision that I've discussed with my family, and I feel it's the best one for me and my overall well-being. I will deeply miss my teammates and competing on the field. I wish my brothers the best and look forward to taking the field again with them soon." Okay. In that case, I mean, I get it, but still, I don't know if you're going to be seeing them on the field anytime soon, man. Like, really, with those kind of numbers, it's not really looking like it's going to be in your favor. So basically, we just got to play the rest of the season by ear, because it looked like over the end of the weekend, like, baseball could end at literally any moment, and that's that's, to all baseball fans, it's like our worst nightmare. But especially with the way that the season's been going, where it looks like anything could happen. Like, the Baltimore Orioles swept the Rays this weekend. Like, anything is, to quote Kevin Garnett, anything's possible. But yeah, it really looks like it, and that would really suck if the season ended. The St. Louis Cardinals had at least three players. It looks like now the reports have been like 6 to 7 players and staff test positive. Joey Votto has been placed on the COVID list until, or yesterday he put himself on the COVID list. He self-reported symptoms. He didn't test positive before, putting himself on the IL. But, you kind of just got to take people's word for it. Here's the list of the newest players who have opted out on the season. You got Tim Collins of the Rockies. You got Cole Stewart of the Orioles. Izan Diaz of the Marlins. Lorenzo Cain backed out, free agent. Francisco Liriano backed out. Well, I mean, Liriano, you're already a free agent. You kind of already backed out to begin with because you don't really have a contract. And then Yoenis Cespedes pulled Devontae Davis and just didn't show up. And when they called him, like, hey, like, yo, where you at? He's like, oh yeah, I'm not playing for the year. So Yoenis is gone. He used, he kind of pulled like a college redshirt and was like, all right, I'm going to play the first week and show everybody that I still got it and I'm still a formidable force in this league, and then I'm going to get up out of here so I don't have to, so I don't hurt myself or get sick again. That's a baller move. That is a total baller move, Yoenis. I can't knock that at all. It's like, all right, I'm here, I'm back. Everybody's going to want me now, right? All right, cool. I'm out. See you next year. That's kind of sick, actually. Go, Yoenis. So, Rob Manfred, to all reports so far, he's saying he's remaining confident about the 2020 season, saying that there's no reason to quit now, despite having positive coronavirus tests that have led to a postponement of 17 games in 10 days. He says all of these things, and then the next day, he changes it all. Like, Rob Manfred is the one commissioner who you can never take on his word. Bud Selig set the bar really low. Really, really low for what baseball fans would consider a good commissioner to be. And Rob Manfred is just way under that bar that Bud Selig hit. And so quickly, too. I don't think he's going to be able to turn around ever. I think he's going to be widely considered the worst commissioner in the history of sports. He has to be. He has to be the worst in the history of sports. This is absolutely ridiculous. It seemed like this weekend we went from no major talks of canceling to, hey, everybody be on call. The season could end at any moment. It's kind of day-to-day right now. No need to quit. Here, I'm going to go read through some more Rob Manfred quotes. Quote, the players need to do better. I am not a quitter in general, and there's no reason to quit now. We have to be fluid, but it is manageable. What do you mean you need the players to do better? You guys need better testing. Or, here's another thing that probably could have worked. It worked for the other leagues. It's worked for hockey, and it's worked for basketball, and we were the first group of people to come up with it. Why didn't we do a bubble? Bubbles work. That's all they've done. That's all they've done for the past couple of weeks is done better. Like, they've worked. The NBA has been ran flawlessly. I don't know if anybody watched the hockey games this weekend, but all the hockey games were entertaining. Like, every basketball game has been incredibly entertaining so far. Every hockey game has been incredibly entertaining so far, and nobody's tested positive. People have left the bubble and come back not testing positive. You know who's left their area and come back tested positive? Baseball players with no bubble. Do better. Do better, Manfred. Like, it's your job to set the tone, and you didn't set the tone. Leadership starts at the top, and you blew it. Again. That's like, in this calendar year, you've had 4 opportunities to really set the tone for what your regimen's going to be, and you blew it all 4 times. Way to go, Papa Manfred. Moving on, another quote says, look, this is one of the reasons that we revisited the issue of expanded playoffs. If it turns out that some teams play 60 games, some guys play 58, they have this new thing called winning percentage, or we can sort that out. Yeah, winning percentage, and can sort it out. Hey, remember the BCS system and how much trouble it ran everybody into? Like, what? So you're saying win percentage, right? So let's say if the Marlins don't play a single game for the rest of the year, and they end the season at, 2-1, 3-1? They're in the playoffs because they have a 666 win percentage? Is that what you're saying to me, Manfred? And don't, they said that in a real condescending tone that I also don't like. It's like, come on, man. You gave us these reasons why we were so skeptical in the first place. Everything you've done has led to nothing but skepticism. So don't pull a Kyrie Irving and just troll everybody and do the wrong things and say the wrong things. And when people call you out for saying the wrong things, you get grumpy. You can't do that, man. It's so annoying reading all this stuff, because I guarantee you, if I were to go back tonight or tomorrow morning and read the reports, it's probably going to be something completely different coming out of his mouth, and he's going to be grumpy again because he's like, why do these guys keep asking me questions? It's because you give us mixed answers. That's all you've done, is give us the complete opposite answer directly after you answer the first question. It's completely ridiculous. Last quote on Manfred, he says, this is kind of a day-to-day thing right now. You've just got to get up in the morning and figure out a way to keep going through another day and stay safe for people. What? It's not a day-to-day thing. And if it were to be a day-to-day thing, you made it a day-to-day thing. Why is it that now all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's the player's job. It's not the player's job. Players show up and play. That's all they do. The players show up, play the game, go home. There's so many extracurriculars that you didn't cover, and so the players are like, well, is this okay? Is this not okay? And nobody really knows. No one, just follow basketball. All you have to do is just look at Adam Silver and mimic everything he does, but in baseball terms. Just be somewhat smart. Be somewhat aware of your surroundings. Be somewhat aware of the social climate. It's really not that hard. But Manfred, you're making it really hard. And, it's, oh my God, it's so annoying. And there was another report that's saying should another outbreak materialize, Manfred, who has the power to shut down the season, could move in that direction. Multiple players have been briefed on Friday's call, feared that the season could shut down as soon as Monday, which is today. I haven't heard anything about it, so it looks like it's going to continue to be going. Or if players continue not to strictly abide by the league's protocols. So if the players decide that they don't want to abide by the league protocols. But here's the thing. What are the league's protocols? No one knows what the league's protocols are except for maybe the players. Like the NBA with the bubble. We know what they can do. They put out reports like, hey, this is what you can do in the bubble. So basically it's like, hey, like we put this in an area and we put everything around you that you would need. Like they have a barber shop, they have all the food catered to them, they have training rooms, they have everything that they would have on the outside of the bubble, they have it inside. But since baseball doesn't have a bubble, they have to go out and get everything that they need. So, abiding by the league's protocols is what exactly? Let us know what the league protocols are. But you can't even do that because I guarantee you it's going to be something really dumb and not make any sense. Like, are you saying that they can't go out and get groceries? Are you saying that they can't go out and, play in, like, their backyard with their kids? What are the league's protocols? What are they? Can they not have any social interaction outside of their house? Can they even, what is it? League what the league protocols are, actually, so we can read them over and we can be like, okay, this is stupid, no wonder why this isn't happening, or why are the players being so difficult? And in this case, I'm 100% pro player. I think that everybody who doesn't have $1 billion is pro player. That would make the most sense to me. But we just got to see what it's like in the next few days, because who knows? By the time the next episode comes out, baseball could be gone for the rest of the year. We don't know yet. We probably aren't going to know for maybe a few days. But until then, we're just going to keep chugging along, keep watching the games, and keep reporting like the like the games are still going to be going on for an entire season. Okay, so that rant over. Coming up next, I will be breaking down and recapping the biggest and best of the week. Give me 1 second. We will be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright everybody, welcome back. So we just went into the recap of the whole state of coronavirus in baseball and how Rob Manfred is just doing pretty much everything the wrong way. So now, what I plan on doing is just recapping some of the biggest and best from the weekend. Naturally, as you guys are all familiar, I am a total Braves fan, so we're going to start off with Atlanta's major thriller against the New York Mets. Now, the Mets have just been, they rival the Angels for having the most awful bullpen, easily. Doesn't matter what their lead is, it will evaporate at some point. They're like the 76ers of baseball. They're really good at the start, but man, you just know at some point a switch is going to get flipped and it's all just going to, the floodgates are going to open and it's just going to make every single Mets fan want to rip their hair out. And, to be honest, I don't blame them. So on Friday, they had an 8-2 lead in the fifth inning, an 8-2 lead in the fifth inning. And the Braves just came storming back and ended up winning the game 11-10. The Braves, they've had their struggles, but they're looking mighty nice. They've won 5 games in a row, and they're starting to look like the team everybody expected them to be. Travis d'Arnaud on Friday had 5 RBIs, and when it looks like they finally figured out their catching issues. Because the catching situation was pretty bad with Brian McCann and Tyler Flowers. Like, they were offensive catchers who, but they needed defense. They needed defensive catchers. Catcher is a position where defense always is superior than offense. You need to have somebody who's smarter than everybody else and call a game. You need somebody with a laser arm who's going to be able to, hose down runners. And, if they're able to hit, then they're a top 5 catcher in the league. But, the hitting isn't really necessary. Like, you look at Russell Martin. Like, Russell Martin was known as one of the best catchers in the game, and he had a .212 average for a few years. Like, you bat above the Mendoza line, and you play really good defense and know how to call a game, you're good to go. And, it looks like the Braves have one above-average catcher and another above-average catcher in the making because, Contreras is the younger brother of who I've been saying is the number 1 catcher in baseball, which is Wilson Contreras. So, if you have those two in the lineup every day, this is a team that you're going to want to watch out for. They went on to sweep the Mets this weekend, 7-1 and 4-0 on Sunday. Like I said, the Mets have had their struggles out of the bullpen, and it's likely to lead to some major opt-outs. Like, if you're really thinking about it, Pete Alonso is hit very well this year. Like, he's hit well this year. He had the historic season last year. Their team's not going to make the playoffs. Why would he continue to play the rest of the season? We already saw Yoenis Cespedes just leave and just refuse to show up. So why would Pete Alonso show up? Why would Jeff McNeil show up? Michael Conforto? Like, I get that they have a love for the game, but with the state of baseball the way it is, and, the coronavirus testing being subpar at best, like, why now? Like, why would you continue to play when you're looking at the 4th team in the NL East? And, the 4th team in the NL East obviously is not making the playoffs, but, you got to climb over probably 6 to 7 teams just to even look for the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So it's not looking great for the Mets. It didn't look great for the Mets, and I don't think it's going to, even come close to being what the Mets need. I think Marcus Stroman's probably going to sit out the rest of the year. Edwin Diaz will probably leave because he's had a terrible season. He's still under contract after this year, so maybe he'll opt out and just, work on throwing bullpens, something like that. Dellin Betances, all these guys. Like, why would they still continue to play if they're not going to be able to win games? So I don't know, man. And yeah, well, I guess we'll see. We'll see about the Mets. The Braves are looking really, really, really nice, though. We'll get into the Braves during the power rankings that I got next segment. But, Ronald Acuna, he hit a homer, which is promising. He's been in a horrible slump. He's still kind of in a slump, but, he was able to get one over. Hopefully that'll be able to boost his confidence. boost his vision at the plate, and, maybe he's, finally got enough reps to be able to turn on that fastball. And because the fastball has been what's giving him the most trouble throughout the season. Austin Riley's been really well. Adam Duvall's been playing really well. It's looking good down in Atlanta. Hop on the bandwagon while you can, because if this season goes on, they have the starting rotation, they have the bullpen pieces. They especially have the starting rotation now that they put Fulton Edwich on designated him for an assignment and put him in the training complex. That's definitely something that's going to boost their abilities to win games, that he's not hanging freaking 80-mile-an-hour sliders at the belt. God, Fulty, you annoy me. Anyways, so now moving on, we're going to hit up the Tigers and the Reds. Didn't I tell y'all not to sleep on the Tigers? First episode I ever did. I was like, hey, don't sleep on the Tigers. This is going to be a really weird season. The Tigers, they're young, they're hungry. Who knows? Maybe they can come out and do something. And the Tigers have been one of the biggest surprises in the early season with a 5-4 record. It looks like it's 5-5 now because they lost the doubleheader last night. But 5-5 record on the season. Nobody would have even thought through 10 games that they would be 5-5. More like 3-7, maybe 2-8, maybe. A 5-5, and they have absolutely dominated the Cincinnati Reds this season. And the Reds, of all teams, was a dark horse World Series contender. Now they went from dark horse World Series contender to, they're still just the same Reds of old because they can't close anything out of the bullpen. Trevor Bauer, he's been out here voicing his frustrations, which, hey, I don't blame him at all. It's rough. It's rough out here for these pitchers, especially when you take them, the starting rotation has been so good, borderline record-breaking, and, they hand it over to the bullpen, and they lose it immediately. The Reds have lost Joey Votto for a little bit due to the virus. Like I said earlier, he opted out, or he put himself on the injured list, but didn't test positive. He just had a little bit of the symptoms, and he was like, yeah, I'm not going to push it, and, hey, I don't blame him. They were coming out the gates and, ready for anything, We'll see if they have what it takes to keep it up against like some serious opponents. The Reds are, since they're going at a downward trajectory, you have to see what the Detroit Tigers are going to be like against some real teams, and we'll see that upcoming soon. They have an upcoming series this week that's going to be pretty interesting to watch, especially because it's actually a good team. Let me see if I got that written down. Tigers versus the Cardinals. Yeah, so that's going to be a really big series to watch. I'll cover that a little bit later in the show. But 3 wins against the Reds and 2 games against the Royals that have got their 5 wins. So not the biggest juggernauts of opponents, but we'll see. We'll definitely see this week if the Tigers have what it takes to actually be a team that's going to cut people off the chop, off the edge, be the Cinderella killer. So now off to the biggest surprise of the weekend. The Baltimore Orioles absolutely owned the Rays to start the season. The Rays have had their issues with the Orioles all weekend, and they got swept by Baltimore, including a walk-off win in the 11th on Saturday and a 5-1 rout on Sunday. The Rays have been struggling out of the bullpen. Charlie Morton hasn't been having the greatest start to the season. They haven't been able to put together any runs for the starters. And it's making life incredibly easy for the New York Yankees. Like, if you're the Yankees, everybody was making it a big deal because it was like, the Rays have a pretty fair schedule. Fair weather schedule, I should say. Like, really easy for them. And the Yankees are going through murderer's row, essentially, for the first month of the season. I think, it was September 2nd was the big day where they went from the hardest schedule to one of the easiest schedules. But, with Boston not having anybody with an actual name besides Nathan Eovaldi pitching at all, you got Toronto's way too young. The Orioles at 5-5 are everyone's like, what? What the heck's going on? And with the Rays not even to put up any run support, and the Yankees are just mashing the ball all over the place, looking like they haven't missed a beat, and they're better than ever. So it just makes life so much easier for the Bombers up in New York. So, I mean, and this comes right after the Yankees dominated Baltimore. Like, the Yankees dominated the Orioles, and the Orioles dominated the Rays. So what's that say about the competition in the AL East? It looks like the AL East, granted, I'm not completely counting out the Rays. They will be back. They will figure this stuff out. Austin Meadows is going to be coming back either this week, early this week, or late this week. It should be sometime this week, though. He's going to be coming back, and he's going to be able to anchor that lineup. But, they just have not been able to push off runs. And, the Orioles, they handled, it's so surprising that the Orioles have done well, because they handled Boston, they handled the Rays, and it's like, the Yankees have handled Boston. I don't think the Yankees have had a series with the Rays yet, but, if the Orioles are doing all the Yankees' dirty work, then what are the Yankees going to do? They're just going to coast. Just coast right into the playoffs. I don't see them overexerting themselves at all whatsoever. They could keep riding Gio Urshela and probably make it to at least the ALCS. Like, the Rays struggling makes it look like the Yankees are even more favorable to go to the World Series than, we thought at the start of the year. In the start of the year, they were the number 2, I think either number 1 or number 2 team to bet on to win the World Series. So, we'll see how that goes. Big rip to the Rays. Big rip. Anyways, moving on. Now the battle for the NL West lead. The battle for the NL West lead. And for once, in whatever, it seems like forever, doesn't have anything to do with the Dodgers out of LA. Nope. This is actually the Padres versus the Rockies, who had an absolute slugfest this weekend. The Rockies took the series with a win on Saturday and Sunday to solidify themselves as the number 1 seed in the NL West, and I really can't believe it. They have 4 batters batting well above the 300 mark. Story, Blackmon, Murphy, and Matt Kemp? Matt Kemp, of all people, putting work and carrying the offense, while the pitching staff has put together some really good numbers. It looks like Kyle Freeland's back. Kyle Freeland went from no one knows who this guy is to, hey, this guy could take the Cy Young in the NL. And then in that year where everybody thought he was a Cy Young contender, had like a 6 ERA and got designated for assignment, sent down to the minors, and was in the center of trade talks, and now he's back putting up numbers. We don't know what's going on in Colorado, but all we know is that Colorado, they were slept on, and they are trying their damnedest to wake everybody up. Like, when your 4 best hit, you have 4 hitters batting better than your best hitter, Arenado, that's saying something. And when you have a pitching staff, granted, this is Colorado, like, they all hit better in Colorado. Everybody knows the story about, how they do when they're home and road splits and all that. But, they still had a good series against, the Rangers. They've had a good series besides that, and, they have a pretty decent series coming up. I think it's against the San Francisco Giants that we're going to have to pay attention to. But, I think if they're able, let me see. I think I have that. Yep, Rockies Giants. So, if they're able to go into, PNC Park, it's PNC Park, right? Or AT&T Park? I don't know. The stadium in San Francisco. If they're able to go in there and they're able to, assert their dominance, because the Giants are also surprised at 5-5. They've definitely asserted themselves, especially with the Dodgers and Padres. Like, the Dodgers are going to be playing the Padres, and, if the Padres and the Dodgers just start swapping haymakers and the Rockies are able to pull out a sweep, they could really set themselves up with a pretty big league. Now, granted, I'm not counting out the Dodgers at all. The Dodgers are going to be the Dodgers and have a random spontaneous run to shoot them into the postseason, as they always do. But it's coming at some point. but it could be fun just to see what the Dodgers do when they're down, down in the division rankings. We'll see. We'll definitely see how that goes. The Padres, they had a really good opening game on Friday, and then, they just weren't able to close out games late. The Rockies were able to punch and fight and claw their way out of situations, and it was really fun to watch. So we'll see. We'll see how the week goes for those two teams. And moving on, we have the Twins and Indians. Now the Twins have they've just flexed their gargantuan muscles this weekend and swept the top contender in the AL Central with ease. Kenta Maeda went out there looking filthy on Saturday and shutting down the Indians. Dobnak pitched pretty well, and so did Seltzer. It's like the Twins. It's not like they took down the back of the rotation either. They took out Carrasco, Clevenger, and Savale. They did their work against some of the AL's best pitchers. And, the Twins, they've exceeded expectations. And, I still can't see them doing anything in the postseason. Call me a skeptic. I don't care. I just really don't see them doing anything in the postseason. Because normally, every time they go to the postseason, they go right through New York, except for 2002, where they played the Angels, and they couldn't beat the Angels. So it's do we really see the Twins going in to the postseason and doing anything different than they did last year? Because last year they looked like one of the best teams in baseball, got to the postseason, and they looked like a flat soda. Just so unappealing, and it looks like they just did not care and didn't want to be there. I think that they're with this outing and the way that they've handled the White Sox and the way that they've handled the Indians, I've changed my mind. I'm going to say that the Twins are going to run away with the division, granted if they're still playing. But, I do. I think they're going to absolutely run away with the division. Taylor Rogers has looked so good. He looks like one of the best closers in the league. So, if they can get some depth out of their starting rotation, which they've done pretty much flawlessly during the start of the year, and then just be able to hand the ball over to Taylor Rogers with at least a 2-run lead, it looks like, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The Indians, they've had their struggles with the back end of the bullpen. They've had struggles with their, with their bats. Francisco Lindor is only batting .225, I think it is. And so, they're just not where they need to be offensively. So they really have to count on their rotation, and it puts a lot of stress on them. So we'll see how the Indians are doing. That was a great week. That was a great weekend for baseball. I can't believe that they swept them. That was insane. And then lastly, we're going to cover the Angels and the Astros. Now, these games were all nationally televised. I watched pretty much every one of them. The Angels have the glaring problem, and I said this before the season started, and everybody who ever watches baseball already knew that this was going to happen. But, they had the glaring problem. It was their bullpen. Their bullpen has been a problem for years, 5 years, ever since they made the playoffs back in 2015, 2016. They've just had the problem of not being able to close out games, and they've done absolutely nothing to help fix that at all. And, they keep blowing leads in the ninth inning. They had Springer. Springer was a 2-1 count with 2 outs in the bottom or top of the ninth inning. And, he gives up a dinger to George Springer, who's batting sub 200. He's not batting very well on the year. And, they still were able to give up a home run off him to go down in the top of the ninth. Granted, they did walk off, but, you can't put that kind of pressure on the lineup. It's just, they've blown 5 out of their 6 save attempts this year. And, they were the league's wild card this season for a reason, because, they had the opportunity to do something special and, to catch the league by surprise. And, they did do that through 8 innings. Through 8 innings, they are a great baseball team, but that ninth inning, man, that is their worst nightmare. Maybe they'll see it as a sign to finally take the bullpen seriously this offseason, but it is the Angels, so I doubt it. They'll probably end up overpaying a second baseman or something. Yeah, I don't know, man. The Astros, their season has been going pretty much exactly how it is expected to. You know, they are tied atop the AL West with the Oakland A's. So, you know, no real surprise out of the Astros. We'll keep an eye on them this week, though, and see if that changes. Alrighty, everybody, I'm going to be taking a quick break, and I will be right back with the updated power rankings. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everybody, we are back. Thank you for sticking around this long. I really appreciate it. So, you know, as I'm sure you all are aware, there's really not much news going on in baseball besides, you know, coronavirus and what happened recently, you know, within the last few games. So what I was going to do is I was just going to, you know, whenever it comes out, I was just going to take the time to read and react the top 10 of the ESPN.com power rankings for baseball, because what's better in sports than to debate when you think someone's stupid? And so basically I'm going to see how they rank everything, why I would agree or why I would disagree with it. And, you know, if you guys have different opinions, feel free to reach out on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. Heck, even follow my personal page and, you know, reach out to me on there. I'm down to have a discussion anytime. So, at number 10, they have the Chicago Cubs. Now, we know the Chicago Cubs have been struggling out of the bullpen. Craig Kimbrell looks terrible. Like, he looks like his career is, like, over. It's a weird thing with closers, because the closers who are absolutely 100% dominant, when they lose it, man, they lose it. They lose it bad, and they lose it fast. Like, I just don't understand it at all. But yeah, it looks like Craig Kimbrell, you know, he lost it. The Stars continue to be struggling. You know, Chris Bryant seems to be out with an illness, but they've specified it is not the coronavirus, which is a good sign. You know, Chris Bryant, take your time. Everybody wants, you know, nobody wants the Stars. Nobody wants anybody to go down with an illness, especially during this time. But, yeah, so they're without Chris Bryant. They've had struggling batting, like struggling offense at least, and a struggling bullpen. Their starters have kept them in the games, which is a huge burden to put on the starting rotation. But, you know, it is what it is. Can't really do much with it. So their next series is against Kansas City. So it looks like the Chicago Cubs are going to have a little bit of a break, especially with the way Kansas City has been playing. You know, they're not really anything to really tread on. So, yeah, watch out. Watch out for the Cubs. The Cubs will probably, by the next time we meet, they'll probably move up, and, you know, they'll probably raise their lead in the division for after the series is over, because I kind of expect I expect a sweep out of the Chicago Cubs against the Royals. Moving on at number 9, the Washington Nationals. Now, the Washington Nationals haven't really played in a while, so I get why they're still there. They still don't have Juan Soto. They still don't have Steven Strasburg. And, you know, let's see if the rest from the weekend series cancellation can, you know, get them going again. Their next 12 games are against the Mets and the Orioles. So I would expect a turnaround even when, without their two big stars. I would say that they would probably after those games, they would be close to probably tied with the Braves for the division lead. I expect at least 9 wins from the Washington Nationals against the Mets and the Mets and the Orioles. They really should not put up a fight against the Nationals, not at all. So expect that coming soon. They should be going off on a run at any moment. Moving on to number 8. Oakland. So Oakland's offense has been struggling mightily. Chapman, Olsen, and Simeon are batting .205 or lower. Olsen and Chapman have not even reached the Mendoza line. Ramon Laureano actually leads the team with 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and their offense is so bad they've only scored 30 runs in 9 games. Just the fact that they're even sitting at top of the AL West, that's a big deal because their schedule is just so favorable and they're winning games without even scoring runs. Like their pitching staff has been amazing. AJ Puck hasn't been playing at all, so I think they are expecting to get him back within the next few weeks. Jesus Luzardo, he hasn't been throwing that much, but he can turn it around at any moment. Their pitching has just been really nice, and the fact that they've been able to pull out these games without any offense and without real production from some of their star up-and-comers, like, that is a huge, huge, huge deal. And so I would definitely expect the Oakland A's to definitely take a huge leap moving forward. Moving on to number 7, we got the Cleveland Indians. So with the Indians, Shane Bieber is the next best thing in baseball. I picked him to win the Cy Young this year, and he looks every bit as advertised. He could be the best starter in the MLB, to be completely honest. Absolutely could. I don't think there's any doubt about it, actually. Like, he is the best starter in the AL, and I'm willing to put that against anything. Zach Plesac has a great first outing. But see, the question, again, is some of these, most of the batters just don't have enough reps. Like, they just did not get enough reps to, really put together any sort of offense. They got 8 hitters. 8. Almost an entire starting lineup hitting below the Mendoza line, and Francisco Lindor is only hitting .225. Like, that's definitely something that they have to turn around, because that's way too much, way too much pressure on the rotation. The rotation's going to be, they're going to have off days, and they're going to be giving up runs. Like, you can't have big offensive explosions when the rotation is giving up a ton of runs, and then not have any production when, they're throwing complete game, like when they're throwing shutouts. Like, it's just something that the Indians got to do. They got to get a little bit better on offense. Jose Ramirez looks like he turned it around from, the terrible season he had last year. Good to see if you're an Indians fan. Their starting rotation did pitch rather well this weekend against the juggernaut that is the Minnesota Twins. So it looks like, they're able to turn stuff around. We'll see. Keep an eye out on the Indians. Indians at number 7 kind of makes sense. At number 6, they have the Atlanta Braves. I think that's a little low, to be honest. Completely unbiased, of course. But with Mike Soroka and Fried, they picked up right where they left off last year. Mike Foltynewicz has been pretty bad. Actually, more than pretty bad. He's been so bad. And, they told him to, go to the training site. So, without him throwing, and, if they're able to keep it to a 4-man rotation, I think it actually might pay off for them in the long run, because that won't entirely blow out the bullpen, as, they've definitely done in the past, which, it's good because the bullpen's made a major strength. They've been handing over games late, and the bullpen's been keeping them locked. Luke Jackson has had an incredible year. Last year he was just, I didn't find him to be good at all. I didn't like when he came into games, but he was the only thing that we had, so we put way too much pressure on him. And when you look at it in that sense, he delivered. And so now that we have so many pitchers in the bullpen coming out, it's looking great. Dansby Swanson and Marcelo Zuna have been absolutely incredible. You know, Travis d'Arnaud and Wilson Contreras, like I said, they bring strengths to the Braves' former weaknesses. It's looking insanely well. It's looking great. Their next series is against Toronto. I expect at least two wins, maybe a sweep of the Blue Jays. It's going to be great. It's going to be youth versus youth. That's definitely something you're going to want to keep your eye on. Number 5 is my biggest discrepancy of this whole list. It doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, how in the world did they get ranked this high after being swept by Baltimore? Like, they got swept by Baltimore. Half their lineup is batting below 200, which is beyond alarming compared to last season, you know, when they really had a good lineup that was ready to compete day in and day out. And this year, they just look like they don't got it. This is their year. This is the Rays' chance. And they're blowing it left and right. It doesn't make any sense. That was a big bug. It doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, dang, I lost my place. You know, their pitching has been above average. Of course, it has. They just have, you know, they've had a mediocre start from Charlie Morton, but, you know, whatever. You know, he'll come into form. It's Charlie Morton at the end of the day. You know, he has his high spin rate. He has a devastating curveball and a really good wipeout changeup. You know, he's going to be there. Like I said earlier in the show, Austin Meadows is coming back, so it's a big series this weekend coming up, you know, against the Red Sox. This is a must-win series for both the Red Sox and the Rays if they want to contend for the playoffs this year. You know, they're going to have to actually go for it, and really someone's going to have to assert their dominance. They can't, you know, trade off games, you know, maybe win 2-1, stuff like that. You know, you have to go and assert your dominance. You have to sweep them, and you have to show the Yankees that, like, hey, you guys are got to be paying attention to us. You can't just, you know, take everything by the wayside. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely a must-watch series with the Red Sox. Up next at number 4, you got the Houston Astros. You know, the Astros have been relying on 13 rookies, including 10 pitchers. So there's certainly, you know, concern about the quality and depth of the pitching staff. You know, especially with Justin Verlander out for who knows how long. You know, Roberto Osuna is on the injured list after hurting his arm. Ryan Presley is the only non-rookie out of the bullpen. That's not really great for them. But from what I've seen, a lot of those rookies. Big bug. Oh my goodness. Big bug. Okay, I should be fine. Yeah, they're nasty. Those rookies are insane. I forget which game. The Dodgers, that's right. When we were watching the Dodgers series, there were some two-seamers that I could not believe were being thrown. It's like, these guys are insane. So, yeah, you know, they have a lack of depth in the starting rotation, but, you know, with these rookies, they're going to be able to fit in seamlessly, and I think they're going to be, you know, they're going to be looking like the Rays in a little bit. You know, with all their pitching, and the Rays are, you know, famous for all their movement, and it's just, I just don't know how anybody's going to stop them. You know, Altuve, Springer, and Bregman have struggled really bad to start the season, but you know, they're still competing really well. They're still competing against these teams, and even without those guys out, and they'll turn it around. They're good enough players. So we'll see how it goes. Their next series is against the Arizona Diamondbacks, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The Diamondbacks, you know, they do put up a good fight. They could actually lose that series, and if they do, I would expect probably on the next power rankings for the Astros to swap with the Oakland Athletics. That would just make the most sense to me, at least. Moving on at number 3, we have the Minnesota Twins. Now, the Twins are going to, you know, pound a gazillion homers. Nelson Cruz is leading them in every single offensive category. Max Kepler is looking like as dangerous as ever in the leadoff spot. But, you know, the key parts are coming from strong starts from their offseason pickups, Maeda and Rich Hill, they got from the Dodgers. And, you know, solid performances by the back end. Like I said with Taylor Rogers. Like, Taylor Rogers looks like one of the best in the bullpen. Like, one of the best in the bigs coming out of the pen. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Their next 2 series are against Pittsburgh and Kansas City, so I don't expect them to lose this week. Like, I'm going to be dead honest with you. Like, I think that, the Twins might be the number 1 team on this list by the next time the power rankings come around. I would actually bet money on that. Number 2, you got the New York Yankees. Now, Aaron Judge is hotter than the Sahara right now, and he's hitting 6 bombs in 5 games in 5 straight. He's hitting homers in 5 straight games. Him and Stanton are locked in and looking as healthy as ever, which is annoying because I had Stanton on my fantasy team last year, and he didn't play at all. God dang you. So, moving on from that, Chapman is on his way back, but one bad thing, Tommy Conley? I don't know what his name is. I'm so bad. I've been butchering these last names left and right. He needs Tommy John, so, out with the old, in with the new, I guess. Chapman comes back and doesn't really affect the depth at all. Gio Urshela and DJ LeMahieu have put up some great offensive numbers and have really been helping the Yanks get through the tough part of the schedule. Gio Urshela has been not only great on defense, but he's put up really good numbers, sitting above 300 this year with a couple homers. Their next up is against Philly and struggling Tampa. So who knows? The Yankees could position themselves firmly in first place after this week. And lastly, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers, of course. Like, I don't know when they'll ever not be the number 1 in the power rankings. I don't know how. They're like 3rd place in the NL West. But, it's the Dodgers. Even when they're on a slow start, even when they're slumping, they're still one of the best teams, which is rather annoying for everybody who doesn't want to see the Dodgers win. But, Clayton Kershaw made his first start on Sunday. Walker Buehler's had a couple abbreviated outings. Cody Bellinger slumped to the season. He had his first homer Sunday. Jock Peterson and Justin Turner haven't really done much. Will Smith is struggling. Seager leads the team in average homers, on-base percentage, and hits, and is tied for second on the team with 6 RBIs. The Dodgers, with all that struggling, the Dodgers still have the best run differential in the majors. That's probably thanks to 3 blowout victories by 7, 8, and 9 runs against San Francisco and Arizona. But they're still they're always going to be one of the best teams, even if their bullpen is kind of shaky towards the end. I'm still not fully sold on them. I guess we'll see. But they have a huge series against the Padres, and that's definitely going to test the legitimacy of the Dodgers moving forward. All right, everybody. I am going to be taking a quick break, and I will be right back, highlighting what to watch for to start the week.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, everybody, we are back. Thanks again for sticking with me to the final segment. So, naturally, at the end of every show that I've done, I am going to talk to you about what the major series that you're going to want to watch for to start the week. Now, I'm going to do this rather quickly because I went pretty long in the first couple segments. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, get you guys going for the rest of your days. So, one thing that I would like everyone to keep an eye on is the Indians versus the Reds. So here's why this is intriguing. Both teams really need this series to stay afloat in their divisions. The Indians are 3rd in their division. I think the Reds are either 3rd or 4th in their division. So, and it's the battle, they need this really bad, and it's the battle of the struggling teams. So you have the struggling offense of the Indians facing the struggling bullpen of the Reds. So either team can use the other team's weakness to really, spark something. If the Reds continue to struggle and, the Indians go off for a field day and just start slugging homers left and right, that could be the major spark that the Indians need. Same way with the Cincinnati Reds, with the Reds, if their bullpen, has a field day against the Indians, maybe that'll spark the confidence to be like, hey, we're going to be just fine and we're going to be able to go through and, spark a run. You guys know how baseball is, but anything could happen at any moment. It's definitely something to keep your eye out on. I know the starting rotations are going to be back and forth. It's going to be a tremendous pitching matchup, but, in the battle of bullpens, who's going to be the first one to crack? I think it's definitely going to be something that is going to be super interesting to watch, and it's probably the most competitive series, I would say, out of all of these, at least from an interesting, storyline standpoint. It's moving on. You got the White Sox and you got the Brewers. So the White Sox, like I said, they're in second place in their division. The Brewers, I think, are in third, just above the Cincinnati Reds and right below the Cardinals and the Cubs. Both teams need it. Both teams need this series. The White Sox, they really need to handle their business and solidify themselves as a playoff contender, while the Brewers, they really need to claw their way back into this season. Luis Robert is front page news every single night. Like, what did he do? The White Sox, they're poised. They're poised to make a run, and we're just waiting for it to finally happen. And I think that the Brewers could be a good place to start off with. The Brewers, is Christian Yelich going to finally figure it out? Christian Yelich has been playing pretty poorly to start the year, and maybe he could use the youth of the White Sox to really use it as a bounce back. We don't really know yet. But we will find out. Moving on. You got the Rockies, and you have the Giants. So the Rockies are the number one team in the NL West. The Giants, I think, are fourth. They're either fourth or fifth. But, they're 5-5. They're a strong opponent. They could, play spoilers to the Rockies and get them up out of that number one spot, especially with the next series I'm going to be speaking about. So, the Rockies got to be able to go on the road and handle business against the, San Francisco. And San Francisco, you got a hold down home field if you really want to play, Cinderellas. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep your eye out on. Especially if you like homers. I feel like everybody talks about San Francisco like it's such a pitcher's ballpark, but I feel like a lot of people hit a lot of dingers in that stadium. I don't know. It's always weird to me. Anyways, moving on. The biggest, I think the most hype of the week has to go on this series. It's the Padres versus the Dodgers. This is the big slugfest series. Like the Padres, you just went in to Colorado and lost that series. You need a big bounce back. Absolutely 100% need a bounce back series. The Dodgers, they need to fight. They need to fight the Padres off and, re-solidify themselves as, the number one team. And if they can't do that, then it's going to be, they're probably going to struggle for a little bit longer. They're going to have to climb back a little bit more. The Padres, this is really big for the Padres. This is more of a confidence thing for the Padres. You have the Dodgers. You could have the Dodgers against the ropes here. We don't really know. If they do have the Dodgers against the ropes, they got to Mike Tyson them. Really got to start throwing those haymakers and really get them up out of here. So we'll see if the Padres have what it takes to go into Dodger Stadium and come out with the series victory. That's definitely something that you're going to want to keep your eye out on. Moving forward, we have the Tigers and the Cardinals. Now the Tigers, this is their first series against a real contender. This is where they should solidify themselves. Like, hey, we're here to stay. We're here. We're here to play ball, and this is the series that definitely is going to do it. Now the St. Louis Cardinals, I think all the pressure is on them. They have to keep up with the Cubs. They have to fight off the Brewers and fight off the Reds. And if the Tigers come out and punch them in the mouth and they're not expecting it, who knows? Like the Tigers could come in and take the series. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So that's definitely something the Cardinals got to look out for, especially with all the positive tests that they've had. We'll see if this series actually happens. that's definitely a major storyline. I haven't heard anything about it being postponed or canceled. So as of right now, seems like it's going to happen, and it's a big series, especially for the Cardinals. You know, the Tigers, they're trying to make a name for themselves, and, you know, I don't blame them. Definitely something that I'm going to be watching. And then lastly, major implications for second place in the AL East. You have the Red Sox versus the Rays. Now the Rays, I feel like this is just like the Indians and the Reds. You know, the Red Sox got to come in, and, you know, they got to try and figure out their pitching against the struggling Rays lineup. And the Rays, you know, their struggling lineup has to, you know, take advantage of the subpar pitching that the Red Sox have. You know, you got to go in and someone's got to assert themselves. Someone has to step up and be like, yo, we are the number one contender for the Yankees. We are the number one contender for the AL East crown. And, you know, who knows if the Rays come out and pull out a sweep against the Red Sox and go into, you know, the Yankee Stadium with their set coming up and, you know, put up a really big fight and, you know, maybe take 2 out of 3. It's looking mighty fine for one of these teams to come back and make a push. Like, nobody's out of it yet, but you can definitely see where the contenders are and where the pretenders are. And this is definitely a series where you got to show that you're a contender and not a pretender, especially if you were the Tampa Bay Rays. And that is going to be our show. I will be back on Friday with a brand new episode. Enjoy your week, enjoy your families, and especially while you can, enjoy baseball. We don't know if it's going to be gone or not by the time, you know, this next episode comes out. You can follow me on Instagram at EvanWorley23. Play me in Tap Baseball if you're bored. Nickname is EvanWorley23. And I would like to thank you for listening to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. And also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great night, and I will see y'all later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.